Alright adventurers, I do hope that all y'all have been grinding for your gold and you're ready to max out your inventory, because today I am running down my must-buy RPG shopping list for the rest of the year. We've got classics returning, brand new IPs, some sweet indies, tactical revivals, and even some monsters to catch. But before we do get started, please be sure to subscribe and join up my party and level on up with me. Thanks so much for the like and the sub, it helps me out a ton in order to keep on covering all these games, thank you again. And now, let's get on over to the lineup, because if you want all these, you definitely need to start your gold grinding right now. But first, let's have a word from today's sponsor. Alright folks, we got some big news today, because Duet Night Abyss is officially launching worldwide on October the 28th, 2025. And this game here is not playing around. Here you can break all the limits because all characters and weapons are free. Yeah, you heard that right. There's no banners, there's no star ratings, no praying to RNGesus either. Every single character can be unlocked and upgraded just by playing the game, grabbing shards, and getting those secret letters to ensure that you get the exact hero that you want. And weapons? They're all totally grindable and forgeable. There's no gacha strings attached either. And check this out, they have a stamina-free system along with stress-free gameplay too, and that means like no waiting around for times to refill, no out of energy, come back tomorrow sort of thing. You can just play as much as you want. Plus, commissions all scale with your rank, and farming is smoother. Here it's about keeping the grind fun, not frustrating. And instead of you making like pay for power, they've gone a whole new route here. A monetization system that is not built around the characters, but instead built around cosmetics. You know, things like outfits, accessories, upgraded visuals, that sort of stuff. So you're supporting the game by styling out your squad, not by like locking characters and equipment behind paywalls. That's a bold move though, and I'm totally here for it. So let's go on together and embark on an epic tale of two intertwined destinies and immerse yourself in exhilarating hack and slash battles, because Duet Night Abyss launches on October the 28th, and it is definitely one to watch. So please be sure to click the links below to pre-register this game right now, and let's go on back to the video. First up, we have Quartet releasing for the PC on August the 26th. This here is an indie RPG that feels like a long-lost Super Nintendo game that just kind of happened to time travel over to 2025. The idea here is that you follow 4 separate stories that eventually weave together, which immediately makes me think of something like Octopath Traveler as well as Wild Arms, but with like a much more old-school charm and also a much more linear storyline. The combat is classic turn-based, fast and fun, with a weapon and elemental weakness system, road changing, a world map, and sprite work that really brings me back to my childhood. If you've ever wished that the SNES had just like one more hidden RPG gem tucked away, then Quartet is your dream come true. And speaking of crossovers and multiple stories coming together, let's move on to a game that's all about combining franchises into one giant tactical free-for-all with Super Robot Wars Y, releasing for the PS5, Nintendo Switch, and PC on August the 28th. If you've never touched one of these games, imagine something like Fire Emblem, but instead of anime knights, you're fielding an army of giant robots from every mecha anime under the sun. And Y continues that crossover insanity, with strategy RPG maps full of over-the-top attack animations from everything from Gundam to Majestic Prince to Code Geass. This is definitely fan service incarnate, but it also looks to be like a really fun tactical RPG underneath all the spectacle. And there's even a demo out that you can check out too. But while Super Robot Wars is all about bringing all these series together, the next game is a brand new IP with a very different kind of high school twist, with Varley coming out for the PS5, Nintendo Switch, and PC on August the 28th. This here is an RPG from Furyu. Do with that information what you will. And it's yet another high school RPG. But here, the students all have to use a virtual reality network known as Johari for all their social networking needs. However, it also seems that some students have been disappearing into the glitches, where a real person heads off into the virtual reality land, and then they're replaced by a monster in the real world. So, as a member of the Student Support Services, you and your guild have to strengthen bonds, guide your friends, and fight to protect the school from impending doom. So that's some creepy virtual reality business, but if you want something more flashy and stylish, the next game is finally bringing a long-awaited action RPG back from development limbo, with Lost Soul Aside for the PS5 and PC on August the 29th. Do y'all remember Final Fantasy XIII Versus? Yeah, it's been a hot minute. Whenever I say a hot minute, I mean over a decade. But this is essentially what has become of it. you embark on an epic odyssey to save your sister and the whole of humankind from interdimensional invaders in this action RPG. The combat is flashy, fast, and really neat looking, with some ass-kicking combos and tons of spectacle. It's been in development, forever, but it's finally here now, and it looks like the wait might actually pay off. So if you want an RPG where the story might be like secondary, but the combat is first, and it makes you feel like a god, then this here is the one. But if pure action isn't your thing, the next one dials it back into grid-based tactics with a heavy Persona 1 and 2 vibe, with Demon School, coming out for the PS4, PS5, Xbox, Switch, and PC on September the 3rd. What we know of as Persona today wasn't always what Persona was. Persona 1 and 2 are entirely different beasts from what we know as today as modern-day Persona. And while Atlus itself seems to have forgotten about them, the developers of Demon School certainly haven't. This is essentially a spiritual successor to the first two Persona games where you're balancing a bunch of high school activities along with tactical grid-based demonic battles. The visuals have this retro pixel style look, but with some slick animations that make every attack pop. So if you're a fan of those old school Personas, then be sure to check this one out. But if tactical demons aren't what you're looking for, maybe you've been asking that eternal question: where do we even start with Tales? Well, this here is your answer, with Trails in the Sky First Chapter coming out for the PS5, Switch, and PC on September the 19th. Just about every single day, I seem to be getting a comment asking me, where do I get into the Trails series? Where do I start? Well, I'm here to tell you, here, this is where you start. If you want to get into the series, just pick this one up and press play. This is the beginning of one of the most ambitious interconnected RPGs ever made, and it all starts with Estelle and Joshua's slow burn adventure throughout Liberl. Keep in mind though, whenever I say slow burn, I mean it. Don't expect instant payoff, but once you do get hooked, you are in for the ride of your life that still has not yet to stop almost 2 decades later. So if you've ever been intimidated by the size of the Trails series, this here is your perfect starting point. And while Trails is all about starting up a massive saga, the next game on our list is a brand new IP entirely, something that we really don't see too often anymore, with Toa and the Guardians of the Sacred Tree, coming out for the PS5, Xbox, and PC on September the 19th. I love it whenever a brand new IP comes out. They're pretty rare these days, and this roguelike seems to be something special. The last one that I played that I really enjoyed was Silent Hope, so hopefully this one here lives up to that one. The graphics are beautiful, the action combat is fast, but the story looks like it might be something like Mana meets dungeon crawling, where you and 8 other Guardians fight together in groups of 2 to defend the Sacred Tree and save their village. Each Guardian has their own weapon and combat style, so if you've ever been waiting for a new franchise to sink your teeth into, then this here could be it. And speaking of long-running franchises though, the Atelier series is back with a new console entry that builds on its alchemy roots, with Atelier Res Loriana, the Red Alchemist, and the White Guardian, coming out for the PS4, PS5, Nintendo Switch, and PC on September the 26th. This here is an Atelier game for the fans, set in the same universe as their abysmal mobile entry, but this time it is a full console experience, set on a new continent and with dual protagonists: Rias, a young girl with a talent for alchemy, and Slade, a young man capable of opening up entrances to dimensional portals. And who will they find behind these dimensional portals? Well, heroes from previous games, of course! This features turn-based combat where you can form a team up to 6 different characters as you fight your way through the land and also restore your hometown back to its former glory. But while Atelier is cozy and lighthearted, the next game is the exact opposite. One of the darkest, most strategic RPGs ever made, finally returning in style, with Final Fantasy Tactics: The Evilise Chronicles, coming out for the PS4, PS5, Xbox, Switch 2, PC on September the 30th. I have ranked the Final Fantasy series many times here on YouTube, but those lists are always like the mainline games, and then tons of people ask me, well, where would you put all the spin-offs? And I'm going to tell you, this one is number 1. It beats out Final Fantasy 6, 5, and 9. I just love it. I first played it whenever it first came out, whenever I was 15 years old back on the PS1, and I must have played it hundreds of times since then, with all sorts of different self-imposed challenges and rule sets, because I just can't get enough of this gem. Believe me, this here is a day one purchase. And while Tactics does scratch that old school itch, if you're looking for some monster collecting done right, Digimon is here to show Pokemon how it is done. With Digimon Story Time Stranger, coming out for the PS5, Xbox, and PC on October the 3rd. The Digimon Story series has been quietly putting out some of the best monster raging RPGs around, but let's just be honest, these days that's not exactly a high bar to achieve. I mean, Pokemon isn't exactly setting any records here. The turn-based combat is sharp, the Digivolutions are as wild as ever, and the new time travel gimmick gives the story some real weight. Think of it as like Pokemon, but with digital monsters, and with way more evolution charts to obsess over. And a story, that's actually worth the damn too. But speaking of Pokemon, the next entry is a big one. The long-awaited Legends follow-up that's changing the formula yet again, with Pokemon Legends ZA coming out for the Switch and Switch 2 on October the 16th. Pokemon has definitely needed to revamp up its formula for quite some time. And while I did like Scarlet and Violet, the Legends Arceus game really turned Pokemon onto its head and proved that they could finally try something new. And while I didn't think it was all that hot, at least it was different. And ZA is following in its footsteps by setting the game entirely in Lumio City, which first appeared back in X and Y on the DS. It's still open world, but this time in a city environment that feels totally fresh for the series. So if Arceus was the rough draft, ZA should be the final copy. And while Pokemon is experimenting with something new, Square Enix is taking us back to the very roots of the genre in glorious HD 2D, with Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D Remake coming out for the PS5, Xbox, Switch, and PC on October the 30th. My very first RPG ever is coming back with an HD 2D remake. I just can't even deal with this. I first played this game when I was 7 years old, and it's what began my love affair with RPGs. Just like they fleshed out the third game, the first and the second are going to be fully reimagined as well. The first game is still a solo adventure, but tons more history and characters have been added to it. And the second game adds a whole new playable character too, the Princess of Cannock. Not only that, but there are special bonuses if you play the third game first. But while Dragon Quest goes way on back to my childhood, the next game is only going back about 12 or so years, back to whenever I was about 30. And that's Tales of Xillia Remastered coming out for the PS5, Nintendo Switch, Xbox, and PC. So the much rumored remake is finally happening. Back on the PlayStation 3, Xillia was a turning point for the series with a much larger world, dual protagonists, and a combat system that actually felt like it was pushing the franchise forward instead of just like polishing the same old formula. You can choose between the awkward medical student Jude or Milla, a literal spirit lord crammed into a human body, as they both team up to stop the Lance of Kresnik and save the world. The remaster here gives it a whole nice new facelift, some quality of life features, and all previously released DLC. So if you did miss it the first time around, now is your chance to finally give it a shot. So now that Tales is revealed, our next entry is all about reviving a cult classic RPG sports hybrid that hasn't been seen in the West for quite a long time, with Inazuma 11 Victory Road, coming out for the PS4, PS5, Xbox, Switch, mobile, and PC on November the 13th. I remember when I first heard about this series and bought it back on the Nintendo DS. I think it was like $10, and I didn't think much of it. And I've never played soccer in my life, but I was still surprised to find that I actually really enjoyed the game. And here Level 5 is continuing the series. But no, this isn't just some like sports game. It's like 80% RPG, maybe 20% sports, along with dramatic story arcs and your players shooting their balls like they're massively overpowered energy blasts. It's been a hot minute since we've seen this series, but it looks like the return that fans like me have been waiting for. Now from one non-traditional RPG about soccer to an indie RPG about garbage, we have Kingdoms of the Dump for the PC releasing this November. I've been looking forward to this one for quite a long time. Much like Quartet, this is a throwback to the SNES-styled RPGs, but it's set in a fantasy world full of garbage, where you play as a trash can knight and then travel across 5.5 kingdoms of the dump with turn-based grid-based combat, timed hits, and no random encounters, as well as some platforming and a Mode 7 world map. There's just a ton here. And I also just love that this was put together by 2 full-time janitors. It's always so great to see people's dreams come true. And finally, to close out the year, we've got a prequel to one of the best new RPG series of the last decade, with Octopath Traveler 0 for the PS4, PS5, Xbox, Switch, Switch 2, and PC, coming out on December the 4th. I love the Octopath series. It's up there with Dragon Quest, Tales, Star Ocean, and Final Fantasy for me. And this here is a prequel loosely based on the mobile game Champions of the Continent, but it's turned into a full console experience. Now, instead of fighting in groups of 4, you can fight in groups of 8, 4 in the front and 4 in the back rows, and then recruit up to 30 different characters, including those from the first game. So if you love traditional turn-based RPGs with great storytelling and tons of exploration, then this here is the perfect holiday RPG to cozy on up to. So that's it for my JRPG shopping list for the rest of the year. Basically, a party lineup so stacked that it would make Sephiroth nervous. But now tell me, what are you picking up day one? And which ones are you going to be saving for a rainy day? Let me know in the comments and let's all talk and chat about it. And hey, if y'all like this video, please be sure to check out my Patreon and then join my party and level on up with me for some more just like this. And I'll see you next time on the battlefield. Have a good day, everyone.